To order the meeting of the Winchester Planning Board for Tuesday.
Recording in progress.
We are recording, so we will call to order the Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, January 21st. Thank you, WinCam, for recording us. And we'll open with a roll call vote. Nick Rosettos.
Present.
Brian Vernalia.
Present.
John Cortizas.
Here.
And did I forget anyone? And I, Carrie Layton, am here as well. And we're missing Diab Jerry as he is out with a virus. Okay, leading off with updates. Anybody have updates? We'll update on kind of the longer projects later. So this is mostly updates on anything that you're a liaison to or any kind of town updates.
I have two really quick updates and then a longer update for later on at the end. But the two quick updates are that the Wi-Fi Trivia Bee is coming up on February 12th. And if we want to put forward a team, it's $375 a team or $125 each because it's a three-person team. I don't know if you all are aware about Trivia Bee is, but all the money goes to Winchester Public Schools via Wi-Fi. And it's really a fun time. I've done it 4 or 5 times under various auspices. If people are interested, I'm certainly willing to. And it's just we need to each fundraise, pay $125 each, and we put together the planning B team or whatever we want to call it. They all have fun names, so we can come up with a name. So I put that out there, and if people are interested,
I think it sounds fun. I would be happy to do it. I am really mediocre at trivia, and I'm really convincing. So with that caveat,
I'm really bad at trivia as well. But it's a fun time, even if you lose in the first round.
Oh, definitely. I've been in it before. It's so fun. It's great. It's a great night. The costumes, it's really fun. So I'm happy to participate if nobody with a deeper knowledge base wants to take my spot. And then I think we should, well, Taylor will probably be sleep deprived, so he's probably out. But Ian, with the youth knowledge base is interesting. John, are you willing to participate? Nick, anybody? No, from John.
Wait, when is this again?
It's February 12th. I don't know the exact time. It's usually 6 or 6:30. There's the students go first, the middle elementary school teams go first, and then they have several rounds. It's a fun time. You're at town hall. You get to see all the people in town are all there. It's on WinCam. It's just sort of fun, and it's a good cause.
All right. Well, something to think about. If you're
think about it, yeah.
Email Brian, if you need to check schedules. But yeah, I think the planning board should represent.
So there's that, and then the other update I wanted to give was more of just a procedural update that when because as a clerk I submit all of our votes, and at the last meeting we had a vote on 71 Woodside Road, and you all see the write-ups that I do. Subsequent to our votes, I discovered that we had misinterpreted one of the maps, and in fact, the garage was going to meet all setbacks. And so while our vote at the time had been unfavorable action because it did not meet all setbacks, when I learned it did meet them, I didn't change our vote. I reported our vote as it was recorded, but I made it clear that we were under misunderstanding of that. So you all get copies of what I send over, and hopefully they match how your recollections are. But I wanted to make sure everybody was aware that how that went down and why I didn't report fully how that went. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. It's a little confusing, and I was confused afterwards. But when you're doing the write-up and all of a sudden you say, hey, our reasoning for voting no isn't actually correct, I didn't want to misrepresent either our vote or the truth. So just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. ZBA did vote on that project. And they
favorably or
favorably, yeah.
Favorably for both parts of the project, right?
Yeah.
So
okay. All right. So no harm done, I guess.
Right. Okay.
That's all it from.
I just had a couple questions during the course of the conversations. A couple questions came up, and one is apparently there's this thing called the Freedom's Way Heritage District, and this might be a question for either Taylor, or I noticed that Jack is on. And apparently we for whatever reason, we didn't vote to be included, but all the towns around us, like Lexington, like we're surrounded, and we're kind of like a standout. We're not included.
We presented
And
about that at Springtown meeting.
okay, I guess the question was, I guess Taylor, you would set up an advisory committee at some point to beef up the plan, and there was some kind of a report that was issued about Freedom's Way and about historical preservation. And I was just, I just got a question on it. I wasn't able to kind of answer it, but I was wondering if there are any updates on it. And then the other one is just what, and I don't know, maybe that it's in process, but what's the status of the Forest Street development? Those are my two questions. If anyone has any updates on them.
So for Freedom's Way, we are collecting interest in joining a committee to designate Winchester as part of Freedom's Way. We are still collecting that interest. We're hoping by around mid-February that we can start convening as a group, and that group is going to work on the proposal that we need to submit to the National Park Service. We did complete a part of the proposal years back, but the necessary requirements in order to become a accepted committee has changed a little bit. So we do need to do some more work. So that is still in the process, but we will need more people to join the committee. Right now, I think we only have 2 people, and it is going to require quite a bit of work. So we're probably going to need more people than that.
And are any of them, I guess, from the Historical Commission or the DRC that volunteered so far?
I don't remember. I know it's only 2.
Okay.
So, but I can't say in confidence if either of them are. I don't have the list in front of me.
Okay.
And then for 4th Street, we've been in touch with the developers, but we haven't heard anything more from them about anything. I know that they're still going through some work with Concom. So
okay.
I think they're either waiting to finish that work with Concom or something else. So hopefully we can get an update from Concom, but really we haven't heard that much.
Great. Thank you so much.
Any other updates from the board? I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any. Okay, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. Has everybody had time to read them over and or submit edits? We can start with the first set. We've got July 16th. Any comments on July 16th, or is there a motion about the minutes of July 16th?
The only edit I'd make to all 3 of them is I'm listed as secretary, and I think the title is clerk.
That's fair. Yep.
But otherwise, they all look great.
Also vice chair. You could take
Also
both.
vice chair, but clerk I think is the
More correct.
the one that matters more.
Clerk's the official one.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the minutes with any other edits or any other feedback on the July 16th minutes? They're brief, they're nice and succinct. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of July 16th with the edit that Brian Vernalia be listed as clerk, not secretary?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor, Brian?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Those have passed. On to 1029, October 29th. This is the set of minutes that includes the public hearing, I believe, right? Yes. Any edits or feedback on this set of minutes? again, with the note that we'll adjust secretary to clerk. Anybody? No? Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes of Tuesday, October 29th with the edit that Brian Bernalia will be listed as clerk and or vice chair and clerk?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. Roll call vote, John,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. On to December 3rd. Same mention that Brian will be listed as vice chair and clerk, or at least clerk. Any other comments or edits on these minutes? Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes of December 3rd with the edit that Brian Bernali be listed as clerk or vice chair and clerk?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. By roll call vote, Nick,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. So we have passed 3 more sets of minutes.
I know you just voted on these, sorry, but I'm looking at this. This is the mock approval process. This motion's not binding. It should be removed.
Is there a motion to edit the, how do we do that? Do we reopen
You
it?
would just amend the
Okay, is there
minutes,
a
it's fine.
motion to amend the motion to approve the minutes of December 3rd by striking the motion. We did it as kind of a mock motion. I hate to remove the record of it in case the students need it.
I would move we amend the minutes to put a note that the motion is, that we consider the motion non-binding and was done for the benefit of the student experience.
Okay, so it could just be a non-binding motion was proposed instead of motion.
Taylor, would that work?
Yeah, that's fine. I just worry about people looking at these numbers here, and then
Right.
it coming back to us when we're actually trying to do this project with these, and I don't want there to be any potential confusion.
Yeah, that's fair.
Agreed.
Okay, so is there a motion to amend the minutes of December 3rd to change the motion wording to a non-binding motion was,
For the benefit of the
yeah, was made,
student presenter.
yeah, or a non-binding motion was made as part of the mock approval process?
Part of the mock. Okay. I can move that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, further discussion, does that seem fine with everyone? No changes, thumbs up. Okay, roll call vote, Brian,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thanks for catching that, Taylor. Okay, now that's all the minutes. Okay, we have a design review committee appointment on the agenda for today. The position of local business owner is currently held by Ellen Spencer. Her term expired on December 31st of 2024. And I believe she is our candidate for this position. She's willing to serve again. Is that correct?
Great.
Is she with us? No. Okay, so I think this is fairly straightforward. This is a reappointment that the planning board would make. This round, it's not a competitive appointment, so we could discuss or Ellen's wonderful to work with. She has a deep knowledge base and a real passion for design review, and she's been a true asset to the committee. So I am, sort of willing to entertain the discussion, but she seems like a yes, Brian.
I would make the motion that we reappoint Ellen Spencer to the whatever the position's called.
She is the position of local business owner on the design review. Is there a second for the motion? And then
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you, Brian. And then you have discussion.
Brian has his hand up.
Just a quick question was, do we know how long she served on this committee? Does anybody know?
I don't know when her original appointment was.
This will be her. I did ask her, so hold on.
I will be in favor of her reappointment. I just
This will be her 5th term.
Her 5th term.
Okay.
Are these 1-year appointments?
3.
These are she'll be entering her 12th to 15th year.
Yes.
Oh, that is an outstanding
That's a dedicated person.
tenure to town. Yeah, but a deep knowledge base to have.
That's a dedicated person.
Yeah,
That was my only question.
that is a long-serving member. Any other discussion on this? Okay, so by roll call vote, Nick,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, with gratitude for her service. So she is reappointed. Okay, we have folks here. Jack is there. We have Rich, I think, is keeping informed. Richard, Leaf, and Jack. I'm wondering if there's anything in particular that we should make sure we get to sooner than later. We're just kind of listening in.
I had nothing. I'm just here to observe.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Great.
Unless you guys have questions about historical commission, which I hope you don't.
We probably drum a few up if you want some time in the hot seat. Okay. Richard, anything you?
No, I'm good. I'm actually as part of with the Chamber of Commerce is kind of why I'm here.
Okay, great.
But
I just
I
leave you
just say real
hanging,
quickly.
waiting for us to talk about something that we put off for too long.
So Taylor, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I saw your email. Neither Philip nor I can make the meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm writing you an email right now.
Okay, all right. I'll sign off. All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome to stay. I just didn't know.
No, I will. I am gonna stay.
Okay, great, perfect, great. Okay, so the next thing that's on our list is a site plan review audit. Brian and I were at the ZBA meeting that took place last Thursday evening. There is an ongoing effort by the ZBA, I would say maybe it began even before that, to make the site plan review process more efficient. And within that, I know since hiring Carla, the process has overall been made more efficient, and that's both on the part of the applicant making their way through and having better information about how the plan is going. But we did get a considerable amount of feedback over the last year that site plan review is a difficult and expensive and a time-consuming process. So we're trying to take that feedback and make sure that we are addressing places where it could be improved. David, I always pronounce his last name wrong, Feigelbaum, has been on the ZBA for a long time, knows the process very well, and took it on himself to update or to propose updates to many of the forms that are involved in the site plan review process. And those forms were meant to be discussed at the last meeting on Thursday at the ZBA. So Brian and I were in attendance to see if there's anything that we can add or understand, both in terms of making sure that that process goes smoothly from the perspective of the planning board and whatever we can add to make it easier for applicants, and also just to make sure that we're keeping an eye on places where the paperwork, which is essentially executing the zoning bylaws and the way that they decide what site plan review encompasses, making sure that none of the changes that happen to the site plan review forms interacts with the information that's provided in the bylaw. Because if the bylaw needs to be updated, that's our turf. And if the forms are being updated, that's very much in the purview of the zoning board of appeals. So we were just sort of keeping an ear out to make sure that the processes are happening in good parallel. Ultimately, what came out of that meeting was that the ZBA itself needed more time to see a red line copy. They had the new copies of the forms and they have the old forms, and it's a lot of paperwork. And so having them as two separate forms made it much more difficult to compare what was happening set to set. And so, I mean, I've cruised through them and I agree with the feedback that the ZBA members gave to David, which is that they need to see a red line. They need to see the document, the original document with the changes on the original document so that they can review them point by point. And I think that's something that we will want to see as well. And we want to be thinking about this now. We want to be thinking about this. And the timeline is something that we want to think about, because if there is anything in the bylaw that should be updated, Springtown meeting comes up very quickly. So Brian, what do you want to add anything from that meeting that you think would be helpful? I think, go ahead if you have anything that you want to add now.
I think the big issue was the redlining, that the copies that they had made were very hard to read. What was new, what was old. You had compared to two documents side by side. So they were going to have a redline document, and I thought they were trying to get it done in time for our meeting tonight so that we could have it. Not that we would have time to fully review it, but we don't have it that I know of yet.
Right.
To get it something changed by town meeting, if we have to change a bylaw, we are cutting it close already, because that would be by March probably. So
Right.
hopefully there's nothing significant. And they said their opinion was if something actually required a bylaw change, they'd rather change the form than have to change a bylaw. But that may not be the best thing for the whole universe if in fact a bylaw should be changed. But that was what they said. Well, let's just not change the bylaws and we'll make sure it applies. So we shall see.
Right. And some things will be borderline clerical, but in conflict with the bylaw. I mean, the example we all keep using is that they are very helpfully suggesting fewer physical copies of the site plan review application be circulated. Currently, the bylaw requires 20 physical copies, and they're reducing that to 12. So while that's something that no one would question or sue over or really complain about at all, it's something that would be in conflict with the bylaw. And so, it's something that like technically should be adjusted, but it's not enough to run it through town meeting unless there are multiple small points that are getting to where we're looking at it and thinking this is out of date. There are a few points that the ZBA themselves seemed conflicted on, and this is where the red line becomes really important, where they are working to, I think, helpfully define the criteria that site plan review decisions are made by. And in defining that, there was some question raised at the meeting about whether or not the definitions that they were setting were within the purview of the ZBA, and whether they were kind of maintaining fidelity to the bylaw and to the scope that was suggested in the bylaw for each of the committees that it was assigning weight to. And so I think the red line will be helpful because we'll be able to say they started here, they ended up there. And it could be true that they end up in a helpful place, and we think that that's a fine interpretation of the bylaw, and we don't end up going back to it. But I think this will be something that we'll want to spend time thinking about. My impression right now, to back up what Brian said, is that it won't be urgent or necessary or even helpful to try to push it through for Springtown meeting. I think we want to spend a bit more time letting the ZBA get to where they feel like the process is in good shape, in conjunction with, the buildings department and, historic and design review and everyone that ends up with hands on these documents, and make sure that we've raked over that and addressed places where it's a little out of sync, even with special permitting process, which I think from the buildings department is more similar than we think of it as. So making sure that we've kind of lined both processes up, made sure it looks good before we open anything up to town meeting, partly because I think it's a really technical process, and getting town meeting members to where they feel like they've got their arms around it and they understand what we're coming at. After the year that we've had, I think ramming it through for spring is egregious and unnecessary. But maybe for fall, we think about making sure that we've done any cleanup work that we need to do. So that's what I have to say about the site plan review audit process. I think it's a really important task. I don't think it's one that we have to rush. And I'm glad that it's being taken up, but I don't think I have much else to say right now. Taylor, do you have anything else? You're certainly involved in it. Taylor and Ian and Tom Kennedy, the building commissioner, and Carla Peck, what is her title? I'm gonna get it wrong. The wizard of paperwork.
Yeah, actually,
The
zoning coordinator, maybe.
zoning coordinator. Great. Just kind of sat down and talked through their version of their frustrations and their opportunities that they saw from the process. So we're gonna need to knit together quite a few perspectives to get it right. I think it's gonna take time. Anything else from that meeting you want to bring up, or you feel like we're
No, I mean, I think everything will be talked about in time. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people very interested in improving things, and improvements don't necessarily mean, the way that I see it, improvements don't necessarily mean changes to the bylaw. It just makes things more efficient for staff and for board members, and that's really the most of what's being discussed.
right. And I mean, the common consensus is like the frustration for applicants is often that it takes time, but the reality is that to do it right, it takes time. We have to get a lot of opinions from a lot of different groups, and all of the groups are important. And so I don't know if we can shorten it by much, but we can make it more transparent and we can make it more efficient and a little less paperwork heavy on the part of the applicant. Anyway, TBD, to be continued, I guess TBC, to be continued.
I will say everyone should attend at least one DBA meeting sometime, apropos to what you were just saying, because it was interesting to watch how they take feedback from the different boards. And I was actually very happy to see that they would actually go through the different boards that gave them feedback and weigh that feedback as they did it. So it was just something that was interesting to watch. That was my first DBA meeting I was in attendance to.
Yeah.
So I found it was very interesting.
Yeah, and the best sort of I mean, for boards that I consider working fairly closely together, or at least definitely having hands on the same projects, the only people who truly knew who truly recognized each other were Brian and his gym buddy. So, we've got some work to do getting our boards kind of on the same page and working more closely. So
Agreed.
Lots more to do. Okay, so Taylor, you want to update us on, I know we're postponing the FEMA floodplain map approval, but do you want to say anything about it? Or we
Yeah,
just
so the engineering department has been working hard on updating the FEMA floodplain map as is required. Now, what this will help, the benefit of this really is twofold. One is it helps all of us understand what areas of town are at more risk of flood, and the other is it helps individuals and property owners to secure flood insurance if they need it, or in some new cases maybe don't need it. And in the past, the planning board has been responsible for sponsoring this, going to town meeting. We will continue that tradition. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to present it. We can if we want, but it's something that we will have to vote on in public hearing. So it will be done at a later date.
Great. And we have a public hearing coming up.
Yeah, we can't, that one's a little too busy. We have time. This can be done at any time prior to Springtown meeting. It doesn't, we have time. It can even, to my knowledge, it can even be submitted before sponsorship, before getting a sponsor.
Great. Yeah, it could go, however it goes for town meeting, but I think that would be one where we would say, we sponsored it. Here is our engineer. Yes,
Yep.
Brian.
I have a question. Is this the direct result of the town meeting article where the town spent, I think, $125,000 to update the flood map?
Oop, you're cutting out.
place
Oh,
at
you
the same
froze.
time.
Hold on, you froze.
Can you try again? We lost you for a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't hear
Yeah,
it.
sorry about that. At town meeting, we spent like $150,000 or something to update the flood plain map. Is this the conclusion of that process, or is this a different process that we're talking about here as far as updating this, if you know, Taylor?
That is an excellent question. I actually do not know. We did hire a consultant, and it did take 2 years. So it is very possible that that's the work, but we'll have to ask the engineering department for clarification. I don't know.
Okay, and then my second question is, are we ultimately just going to approve, sponsor a map? I understand, I see that, and I've read through some of the stuff that's amendments, section 8, 1 and 10, or is it ultimately just a map? Here's the map that we're town meeting has to approve. I'm a little confused on what we will approve, and maybe we'll learn more, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but I was very confused.
It's mostly just a map, but the map is tied to the bylaw, just like our zoning map, right? So in section, I forget what the section is, but it refers to the map, and it may have some language that that discusses details of the map. But the big thing is the map.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Okay, so on anything else about FEMA floodplain map? Anybody have questions? Okay, so on to kind of the other projects that we're working on. Where are we with design guidelines? Did John and Nick get to see those? I know they're done.
No, they have not.
Okay.
That's good news though to hear.
Yeah, they're let's maybe get them sent to we don't Michael Wang must have been he's done, right?
Yeah, he's done. Just waiting. You know, if we have some additional small changes that we want to request, we can request them. For the most part, he's done. Any changes really can be done in-house at this point.
Okay, great. So let's circulate those maybe to the whole board. And then we could vote, if there are concerns, we can discuss them but let's get it on the agenda for the next meeting to vote on those so that we can adopt them and be done.
That is a part of our public hearing on the 4th. So the approval of that has to be done in public hearing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody's seen them.
Yep,
So
yep.
Yeah. Great. Okay, good. Other projects, Brian, I know you've got some stuff for us.
I do. So I was tasked by Carrie a while ago to start doing some onboarding documentation for a potential new candidate, new committee member, and we certainly will have one because I'm pretty sure that Mr. Jarius is not running for re-election. So what I've got is an outline of sort of topics that I would fill in. I'm happy to share that and just have people what I've got. It's like I said, it's a backbone. I'm also happy to do share it differently. I just want to make sure I've got the right topics that are things that we do, things that we're responsible for, things that you would want a new member to know before they join, when they join the committee, so they could get up to speed faster than maybe John and I took to get on board when we were sort of. I'm not saying there was no onboarding, but it was a little bit of attend the meetings and learn how things
No
work.
onboarding. It's a problem across town. It's an awesome thing that you're tackling.
So I'm happy to share just sort of the backbone of what I've got if you want, and I'm also happy not to. I don't want to hijack Carrie.
No. What do you mean? No.
No, if you're willing to let me share, I'll do it.
Oh, please. Yeah, no, of course.
Okay,
Yes.
that's all I was asking.
Yeah.
So you might now see a document that's called PB onboarding topics. Let me just move it so I can see it myself. Okay, can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
We've got you.
Okay. So what I was going through, and nothing has been fleshed out, just general topics. So The first area would be the different roles on the committee. There's chair, vice chair, and clerk. I don't know if there are different roles. I'm not talking about sub. And I'm happy, just throw out stuff if there's things that you think I should be adding for each of these areas, and I will just sort of put them right in. And then I'm going to fill out what these are and what they do and more information on that. But I sort of had those three roles. I had topics of discussion in no particular order. We do budget discussions and votes. We do recommendations for the ZBA, be they variance, special permit, or site plan review. We do subdivision controls, and at least underneath that would be A&Rs. We do CBD submission decisions and review, mod submission decisions and reviews, MSMD submission decisions and reviews, zoning bylaw review and revisions for town meeting approval. At town meeting every year, we're required to give a general overview of our activities. We do town planner performance review and salary recommendations. So if there's more things in there, I'm happy to put them in there. Again, these are things I'm going to flesh out. We have representatives on the CPC, the WCCP, HPB, the trees. I can't remember what you call the tree committee. It's
Permanent Street Tree Committee, but they're changing. I think
I was gonna say the name changes a lot, so I just put on trees. Committee on Names. I don't know if that ever meets, but I'm pretty sure we have a representative on that. CBDRS. I guess that's more of a liaison than a member. I'm a little confused about that, but we have our first meeting coming up tomorrow, so I'll learn more about that myself. And then I haven't filled out the liaisons, but we've got liaisons to a lot of different committees. And my thinking is I would go through each of these topics, be they rep or topics or roles, and sort of flesh them out so that when somebody comes before the first time they meet and we're doing a ZBA special permit review, we can talk about, I can reference what laws we look at, what we're doing, that we're not making a decision, we're making a recommendation. Sort of everything could be filled in there to give to a new member of the committee. This is just a skeleton because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing stuff before I spent a lot of time fleshing it out.
A major item that should be added to the topics list is that we prepare and execute the town's master plan.
Excellent. Thank you. That's exactly what. Exactly why I'm here. And a number of these things are activities that I've never participated in as a member. For instance, no one's participated in a mod or an MSMD submission review and decision. And I only just saw my first ever CBD submission review as of last meeting. So some of these are things that I know we do, but I haven't seen it get done.
That's great. The meeting tomorrow, my recollection, am I the liaison to that from the planning board? Or are you,
Yeah,
Brian?
so I would make the CBDRS a liaison instead of, because that's how it's written in the bylaw. We can all just agree otherwise. But just so everyone knows, the meeting tomorrow is probably not going to happen.
Oh, it's not?
Probably not. Nope.
Oh, okay.
I need to make a few more confirmations, but it's unlikely. It's going to be better for everyone if it's pushed off to.
Sounds good to me. Sounds great.
Yes, it was liaison. I was confused when I was writing this, and I became more aware of how it was working as we got closer to the actual meeting. So I welcome any feedback if you want to give it online right now or offline. If you want to write to me and say, hey, I really think we should be including X, Y, or Z. And then I'm going to flesh this out over the coming weeks, hopefully before we have a new member.
That's great. I think I think Concom could have used this. I think you have suggested school committee has an onboarding. But I think if there's a template for it, this could be great. And it'll be such a huge help to new members in perpetuity.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Brian, the only main one that I would recommend including, because it is a state mandated position for the planning boards, is the housing production plan and everything that comes from it. Planning boards in other towns usually take more of a responsibility for housing than Winchester does, but not all towns have a affordable, well, they have affordable housing trusts, but we have a lot of other boards and committees that do housing. So planning board here is typically just doing the housing production plan, but that is mandated by the state.
And oh, you have the Winchester wait, you have the CPA on there. WCCP is CPA committee, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I think those are the only places we have voting representatives, unless I'm mistaken, on town-wide committees. Obviously, ad hoc committees are going to come and go, and we may have an appointed member who is a voting member, but those are the only that I know of standing committees for which we have a voting member.
Mm-hmm.
We need Diab here tonight. Our 9-year veterans tell me all the places that I've forgotten.
I'm sure he'd be happy to
Oh, yeah,
cruise.
that'd probably be a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are we can we like hire Diab as a consultant if he leaves?
I don't think we can afford Diab.
We
No,
we have a lot of people in town who would happily, I'm sure, share their past knowledge of
Yeah,
different issues and different projects around town.
yeah,
Um,
great. That looks awesome.
good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll flesh it out. And then, I mean, it's basically just going to add words to those topics. And where I don't understand how things work, because I've never done them, I'll be reaching out to Diab or Taylor, or any of you guys who have done these things that I've never done.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. I don't want to put you on the spot without having asked, without having prepped you for it, John, but do you want to give us any thoughts on this year in light industrial?
Taylor and I met about it, and we were talking about reaching out to the community in that area
Great,
and see what their thoughts were.
great. You're thinking town hall maybe meeting or something, or sending some emails or a questionnaire or something?
What did we
Calling
think?
some people who are involved. You again, I don't mean to put you on the spot without.
No, we had
Conversation's fine.
we talked about those ideas. I don't have the most experience in doing that, so whatever.
Yeah.
Would certainly be interested in any thoughts about the best way to reach the master plan.
Yeah.
I think they talk about surveying, was it less than 800 people?
Which was that was seen as a really big success.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
They were very impressed at how many people we turned out for the master plan. Did you come to any of those?
No.
The format was great. I mean, the attendance is what it is, but it was a good way to gather feedback. It was kind of the template that we used for feedback on North Main and 3A. It was a lot of bulletin boards, but there was a word cloud that evolved when people walked in. And the interactive feedback was really popular. I don't remember sort of like snippets of information about light industrial, but it's always an area people are so interested in. I mean, it's kind of a fascinating section of town. But that format, which we've seen in action, except there was more opportunity to write thoughts, like kind of like, I don't remember if it was index cards. There was more chance for people to give a bit longer form feedback on the process. So it was it was labor intensive, and it was at the Jenks, so it was expensive, but the format was good. I know 800 people feels like tiny number of people. Yeah, I know.
If they're a good cross section, it's really 800 out of 22,000 is better than we do national polls with smaller percentages than that. But
Yeah.
Well, but the pollsters, are kind of working on their technique. They endeavor to sort of make sure they have a representative sample
Yeah.
Exactly.
We were feeling pretty down about the numbers until they told us it's like in most towns, and then we felt okay. And we actually extended the reach because we used co-urbanized, so people were able to interact with an online platform, which probably extended the reach a bit. It was a, I don't know if you remember, it was like a map based. You could click on a certain area and give feedback about intersections or areas of town or, just different parts of town that people wanted to make comments on. And that was helpful because you didn't have to come into a meeting. We had, I don't know if we have attendance numbers, but we had at least one meeting about light industrial, and I don't remember what the numbers were, but the passion was high. So I think you'll get lots. I think what may lack in scope, you will hear in volume. It's exciting. And you have the report from MAPC, right? Or who did the last? We have a report from.
Yeah, John, you've seen the report. I'll resend it to you. It'll look.
Okay.
You'll know. You'll know
Great.
it when you see it.
Great, thank you.
That's great. Great. Anything else you want to say about it? Well, we've got you in the hot seat.
No.
All right. Very exciting. Thank you. So Diab is it was very important to Diab that we get the master plan implementation committee up and going. That is meant to be a non-planning board entity that reviews the goals that were set in the master plan, and make sure that we're not picking pet projects and focusing on those, but rather working comprehensively through the entire master plan. Diab has given quite a bit to the planning board, and I think he is going to not take on a major project, but it's also important to me. I was on the steering committee with him, not as a planning board role, as a precinct 2 representative. And I would be happy to take that up in his place. I've got at least a year left. And I think I will start working on that with Taylor to see if we can get, I don't know if he's still on here, but Rich is someone who has tried really hard to get that going. My early thoughts on that are that if we put out a request for people to join MPIC, it's going to be difficult. But if we can choose focus areas based on the headings throughout the master plan and get a group to look at, open space, a group to look at, areas of, North Main, how do we do there? Those sorts of things, we may have a bit more success. So I will chat with Diab and see what I should not overlook, because I know he had a pretty clear idea of what that process should look like and how it had been starting to take shape before and what missed opportunities we were going to have. And I will take that up on his behalf because I think it's important, and we'll see if we can get it going. Anybody else have a project up there? Oh, I would love to hear, Taylor's got a bunch of stuff going with the planning department that I think we don't hear much about. I don't know how well prepared you are to update us on what's going on.
For fees, or just like in general planning department stuff in general.
Anything in general. You I know you have projects going that we don't hear that much about.
Yeah. So one thing, some work that I did last week, is the Centennial Review has everyone looking at fee structure. So the planning board takes in fees for development review and for subdivision. We need to review those fees and determine if we're okay with them. That's something that we'll be doing in public hearing. So that's kind of something that's more, both myself and Mary Ellen, the town clerk, are kind of simultaneously doing a lot of documentation cleaning. So there are these little things that might come up, like, these are our fees. Are we still okay with it? They were last approved in 2001. Are they still appropriate? So we'll be looking at that type of stuff over probably the next year. A few other things that we're working on. Well, the housing production plan is one that is wrapping up, and will be sent to the state soon. you will all be acknowledged on it. So congrats to all of you for all of your hard work. The Economic Development Strategic Plan, which has been going on since about August. We'll expecting delivery of that plan in mid-March. And with that plan will also come a potential new rebranding guide for the town. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to be rebranding the town, but a part of looking into driving more economic success to the town could mean looking at how we brand it and how people view the town. So there might be some exciting visuals like a new seal, new logo, new colors that represent the town. I've seen some of them, but I actually don't know the final ones that are going to be making it into that final report. So I'm excited to see all of that as well. The economic development part of it, which is really exciting, and John, this will help all of us with the light industrial part. It's looking at what industries are working and not working in Winchester, and which industries are working and not working in our region. So how can we potentially zone for and encourage development for types of industries that are would promote economic success? I have a kind of preview or sneak peek of that final document in 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that, and I can report back on what's happening there. Those are the main ones for me. Ian's working on a few small things. Ian, are you comfortable telling the board some of the things that you're working on?
Yeah, sure. One of the things right now I've been working with Ruth with is mapping out when some of the trails and conservation areas in Winchester. Sort of a helpful guide. If you look at the town of Lexington, they have something similar that sort of maps, gives a synopsis of each conservation area and then the trails in those, and I'm sort of doing something similar. I think besides that, helping out with making the application process more streamlined for applicants for CBD in North Maine. Kind of been working on with that Taylor on that. I was working on some Rangeley stuff for Rangeley Park, sort of doing a guide to that as well, kind of a brochure, digital one. I think that's mostly it, but I'll probably have I might have some ideas coming, forthcoming.
Great. All right, thank
Awesome.
you. That's great. Anyone have anything else? I think it was, except for kind of giving a orientation for the year ahead and getting caught up on projects that we hadn't heard about. I don't think there was much else we needed to tackle today, was there? Our next
I don't
meeting.
think so.
We got the email today that there are no petitions to review, right? Did we get that? There
Correct.
are no new applicants.
The next meeting is on the 4th.
Our next meeting is on the 4th. No, yes, the 4th, right.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask my bi-weekly question of if we have any updates on the EFA?
Mhm.
Which is fine if there are no updates. I don't want to. I assume you'll tell us, but I also don't want to if you had something you had forgotten.
Yeah. So I don't know what the last thing I said was, but we did hear back from the MPC, and they increased the cost of their scope to the point where we can't do it, and they're unwilling to lower it, or they're seemingly unwilling to lower it because they ghosted me when I said it was too high. So I have a connection with the original group who did the work, and they seem to be more interested with completing it now than they were originally. I think the hesitation originally was they were busy because they had all these other communities asking them to do similar work before the deadline of MBTA. And now that deadline has passed, they are now open to do more work. So it's looking like that will be significantly less money in the single digits of thousands instead
So much
of more.
appropriate for the ask.
Yeah. But I think it will be best. I think one of the reasons in the past, actually, Brian's probably a good question to just bring up with everyone. And one of the reasons I think we got to this situation now is because that was coordinated just between me and the consultant. It was coordinated between me, the consultant, and the housing production or the housing partnership board. And I think that the planning board should probably take a more primary role in the coordination of the amendment to the original scope, so that we can avoid the confusion which got us into this situation in the first place.
It would be appropriate anyway, because we would then need to make a bylaw change to make sure that it's incorporated in as quickly as possible. So that sounds like a good suggestion, right, Brian?
Totally agree. And at this point, it seems unlikely we'll get anything done in time for Springtown meeting. But maybe I'm mistaken. But for me, the most important thing is to try to get something on board before this money that we have expires and we have to revert it back to the town. So, I mean, there's sort of two deadlines. One is a deadline to get it done by Springtown meeting, which we may or may not make. But the second would be to do it before we run out of the money. So that's why I keep on asking. I'm not trying to be a pain. Just don't, there's two deadlines and we might miss the one, but we just don't want to miss the other one if we can for the price of the money that we got at town meeting.
You're not being a pain. It's okay.
That's great. So that's a great update. Nick, have you heard anything from the Winchester Committee for Community Preservation yet? Is any convening of the WCCP or not yet?
Not yet. No, I haven't heard anything on that.
Good. All right. Is there anything else that we want to discuss this evening? We open the next meeting with a public hearing to review and introduce the design guidelines and vote on them. And there's a second item, and I don't have my notes in front of me. What's our second public hearing item?
Well, there are four items. They're all the same. They're all regarding the same thing, but for four different sections of the bylaw. Well, yeah. So one subdivision, which isn't there's subdivision first, which is where we're talking about the fees, and then there's rules and regulations for the for the CBD, MSMD, and the mod.
Yep.
And really the main conversation is design guidelines, but we'll also be discussing fees and anything else about the rules and regulations that we may want to change.
Okay, great. All right, anything else?
Question, are we required to vote on those in public hearing or simply hold a public hearing? And then if we have more questions come out of that they could be voted on at a subsequent meeting?
Have to be voted in public hearing, so we can continue the public hearing for as long as we want. But if we want to meet again it should be it has to be the next meeting, and it will have to be a public hearing.
Right.
Okay,
So if
that's
if for whatever reason we can't, there are some issues that we have, we would just continue the meeting for the next planning
Yeah.
board meeting.
Yeah,
Continue the
correct.
hearing. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's one of the things I wouldn't have known because this is all new to me as still the newest member. So appreciate
Great.
the help.
A good bullet for the onboarding materials and something that I think we just all look back at. So anything else? Anything else from anybody?
Oh.
Then at the coveted hour of 8:01 p.m., I would take a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Brian. Roll call vote, Nick,
Aye.
John,
I
Brian.
Aye.
I am an I as well. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, WinCam, for bringing us live to our millions of viewers. Thank you, Cheryl Dennis, if she's here, and to everyone who tuned in. Thanks so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.